Kratom is often marketed for pain relief, boosting energy and mood, and even enhancing male intimacy. But despite these bold claims, there's little solid evidence to back them up, especially when it comes to research in humans. In fact, there are very few human studies at all that show Kratom or its active compounds help with any specific health condition. Take pain relief, for example. Kratom is frequently sold as a natural painkiller. One small clinical study involving men found that those who took Kratom were able to keep their hands in ice-cold water for a bit longer than those who took a placebo. So technically, they tolerated cold-induced pain slightly better. But that's a very specific kind of pain, not the everyday aches and pains most people deal with, like sore muscles, joint discomfort, or injuries. That study doesn't tell us much about whether Kratom can actually help with those more common types of inflammatory pain. Another popular claim is that Kratom can enhance male intimacy, but one small observational study in men found the opposite. After taking Kratom daily for 4 weeks, participants reported lower desire, reduced orgasm quality, and poor erectile function. The researchers speculated that this could mean Kratom might help with premature ejaculation in some men, but the study wasn't a clinical trial. It was just a survey shared on Twitter and Reddit, which is hardly rigorous science. But beyond these limited and flawed studies, there's no convincing evidence from human trials that Kratom improves energy, mood, stress, sleep, or physical performance. In short, there aren't really any proven medical benefits. However, there are plenty of potential risks. Kratom comes from a tree native to Southeast Asia, where its leaves were traditionally chewed or brewed into tea. Today, it's sold in powders, capsules, and extracts. The main compounds in Kratom are mitragynine and 7-hydroxymitragynine, which some believe might make it useful for pain relief because they interact with opioid receptors in the brain. Opioid receptors are the same receptors activated by drugs like morphine. When triggered, they can reduce the sensation of pain and create elevated feelings of euphoria, which is also why opioids carry a high risk of addiction. Mitragynine is the most common active compound in fresh Kratom leaves. It does bind to opioid receptors, but it seems to have only weak pain-relieving effects. 7-hydroxymitragynine, on the other hand, is a much stronger compound, but is typically only found in tiny amounts. Interestingly, it doesn't exist in fresh Kratom leaves at all. It only forms after the leaves have been carefully dried and allowed to oxidize, a process that changes some of the mitragynine present in the fresh leaf into 7-hydroxymitragynine. This specific metabolite is estimated to be 10 to 13 times more potent than morphine at the opioid receptor. With all that said, trying to use Kratom like morphine for pain relief isn't a safe or practical idea. One of the biggest problems is that Kratom products are rarely standardized. The amount of mitragynine and 7-mitragynine can vary widely depending on the strain, how the plant was processed, and how the product was made. Unlike prescription painkillers, which are carefully measured and regulated, Kratom products are unpredictable. Contamination is another serious issue. In 2018, the CDC reported a salmonella outbreak linked to Kratom products that sickened nearly 200 people and hospitalized more than 50. When the FDA tested various Kratom samples, half were found to contain salmonella, highlighting widespread quality control problems. Heavy metal contamination is also a concern. Testing has revealed high levels of lead in many Kratom products, and some have even been adulterated with other substances to boost their effects, such as phenylethylamine, a stimulant that has been linked to brain bleeds. Also, even though 7-hydroxymitragynine, the more potent of Kratom's active compounds, is technically stronger than morphine molecule for molecule, it's found in tiny amounts in most Kratom products. We're talking about 0.5% or less of the dried leaf. In fact, many Kratom products don't contain any measurable 7-hydroxymetrogynine at all. That means a typical 500 mg Kratom capsule might only contain between 0 and 0.25 milligrams of this compound, nowhere near enough to offer meaningful pain relief. So to potentially feel anything, users would have to take several grams of Kratom in order to get a meaningful dose of 7-hydroxymetrogynine. But here's the catch. As the dosage goes up, so do the side effects. You see, Kratom contains far more mitragynine than 7-hydroxymetrogynine. While mitragynine also binds to opioid receptors, it doesn't seem to provide much in the way of pain relief like 7-hydroxymetrogynine does. What it can do, however, is produce side effects that are similar to opioids. So you end up getting the downsides like nausea, dizziness, or constipation without the same level of pain relief. Some of the more common side effects of Kratom include things like nausea, vomiting, dry mouth, frequent urination, drowsiness, dizziness, tremors, and constipation. With regular use, people can also become dependent on it. When they stop, they often experience withdrawal symptoms such as muscle aches, irritability, trouble sleeping, and diarrhea. These symptoms are usually milder than what you'd see with stronger opioids like morphine, but they can still be uncomfortable. More serious effects, though less common, have also been reported. These include heart-related issues like high blood pressure, a racing heartbeat, and in rare cases, irregular heart rhythms, especially when people take high doses, around 8 grams or more. Kratom has also been linked to liver damage, sometimes showing up just a couple weeks after starting use. There have been reports of kidney problems and abnormal electrolyte levels too, often connected to products that were contaminated or tampered with. On the mental health side, Kratom can sometimes cause anxiety, paranoia, and even hallucination in certain users. Another big issue with Kratom is simply this: we don't have good data. There's a serious lack of high-quality, large-scale clinical studies looking at whether Kratom is safe or effective for anything really, including pain relief. Now compare that to medications like NSAIDs or morphine. These drugs have been used in medicine for decades, and they've been studied inside and out. We have a clear picture of their risks and benefits, even if that means a long list of potential side effects. With Kratom though, we're still in the dark. Just because we haven't discovered all the potential problems yet doesn't mean they don't exist. On top of all that, the legal status of Kratom is a mess. It's banned in some places, restricted in others, and its availability varies widely depending on where you live. That makes it hard to find, and even harder to trust what you're getting. Take Canada, for example. Kratom is technically legal to possess for personal use, but it's not approved for sale as a product meant for human consumption. So while you can buy it, vendors have to label it as, quote, not for human consumption, for research only, or for aromatherapy. These labels are really just BS, but the reality is that the quality, purity, and safety of these products are often questionable at best. I won't dive too deep into the regulatory side since many people seek out unregulated supplements for their own personal reasons, but it's important to note that this gray market situation just makes it harder to get a reliable product. At the end of the day, despite all the hype and appeal of a natural remedy, Kratom isn't a safe or reliable option for managing pain, or really any health condition. The scientific support simply isn't there yet. The studies we do have are too small, too weak, or too poorly designed to offer any solid conclusions. What we do know is troubling, wildly inconsistent potency, contamination risks, opioid-like side effects without strong evidence of benefit, and a very real risk of dependence and withdrawal. That said, there is one potential use that I personally think holds some promise, helping people transition away from opioid addiction in the same way nicotine patches help smokers quit. If Kratom were properly studied and carefully regulated, it might serve as a useful harm reduction tool. But as things stand now in North America, Kratom is more of a gamble than a remedy. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Yeung. Do you use Kratom, and what are your experiences? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel and leave me a like. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date, and share this video with someone you know who can use the info.